Orphan trains.
200,000 children traveled by train
Back
from
to the
East
train
Coast to seek
orphans.
new homes in nearly every state in the continental United States. The train stopped at towns where people were waiting to see the select children. A train's arrival would be advertised in advance with handbills, posters, and notices in the newspaper.
Now, Ewaranon said that the train orphans were there because God just created a bunch of orphans and, like, dropped them all over the place.
So
Let's
this
see
is
if
one of
he...
the newspaper advertisements that they had when these orphan trains would arrive in different states throughout the United States. Wanted
this
homes
is
for
like
children.
a little bit
Some
more
were interested in choosing a
This
child
is
to raise on
decent.
their own, while others were looking for older children who could do housework from chores to other labor. Basically slaves. At each stop, the orphan train riders were lined up at the train depot or other public areas while people looked them over. Boys and girls were often inspected closely to see if they were healthy and suited for hard work. So what an absolutely bizarre phenomenon, orphan trains. From the 1850s to the early 1900s, these orphans were shipped out into every state, almost as if they're repopulating empty cities. A lot of these orphans arrived in places like New York, a lot of buildings, a lot of rooms, but not a lot of people. What a bizarre time. All these advanced looking structures, and then you got horse and buggy people, and then you got dirt roads. Where's the pavement? What in the world happened in the late 1800s?
No, please, we can't start talking about the dirt roads again, my dude. We can't. Like, I'm not gonna go into the mud again and the logistics of the mud because I already did 14 YouTube videos on that. Please, we can't do it again.
Where hundreds of thousands of children were abandoned all over the world,
We just
oftentimes
can't.
forced by the state if the mother was unmarried, and then shipped to all parts of the world. These children were called foundlings, and it was a worldwide phenomenon. Once in asylums and hospitals, the children were then given made-up names and sent out from cities to rural areas. They either found foster parents, worked as farmhands, or grew up on their own with a completely new identity and no knowledge of their heritage. So as I stated, this wasn't just in the Americas, this phenomena was throughout the world, even in places like Europe. Throughout Catholic Europe, infants were being abandoned in huge numbers in the 19th century, deposited at foundling homes established for their care in France in the 1830s. About 32,000 infants were abandoned per year. In Spain and Portugal at this time, about 15,000 each. In 1887, over 27,000 babies were left at the foundling homes in St. Petersburg and Moscow alone. At the time, Italy had over 1,200 approved places which newborns could be left. That's a whole lot of places. Very bizarre. And during this time, St. Petersburg was incredibly empty. Just look at some of these photos from the 1800s. Dirt roads, no people.
You are using the exact same pictures as Ewaranon.
So strange. Very strange, but yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think. Link in bio for my YouTube, and we're out.
His subscribers have almost doubled since this video. Good for him. Okay.
Let's talk about Starforts.
Let's talk
about
about
So what is a
Starforts.
Starfort? What is the purpose of Starforts? Thus, Starforts or bastion forts were built as they maximized defensiveness against cannonball impacts and offered better protection and better views of the battlefield for those inside the fort. Well, that's the official narrative. So Starforts are these star-shaped, almost like snowflake-shaped type forts, or cities. And what's really fascinating, you can find Starforts all across our realm, not just in America. I'll show you some examples. Here's a Starfort in Italy. And according to the narrative, Venetian architect Vincenzo Scamozzi built this 9-pointed Starfort in 1593 under the ideals of utopia inspired by Sir Thomas More's Utopia.
I didn't bring the traffic. He's bringing the traffic to me. We've got 10 viewers right now. That's a lot.
Apparently, the Canadian Starfort was built in 1749. The current shape was built in 1846. And today it operates as a historic site. You can also find them in Goryokaku, Japan, and it was built in 1855. Here's an aerial view of that same Starfort.
beef burgers.
Very beautiful and very interesting.
Not meat
Here's a Starfort in
seltzers.
France, apparently built during the 17th century. Here's a Starfort in Copenhagen, built in 1664.
Post it, maybe we'll cover it later.
Again, with that same design and similar shape. Here's a Starfort in the Netherlands, one of the most well-preserved examples of a Starfort. It apparently was built in 1593. It was converted from a fort to a village in 1851. Another very interesting fact is that the Statue of Liberty is actually on a Starfort.
Oh my
The bird's eye
god.
view of the Statue of Liberty, yup, it's on a Starfort.
It is on a
So
Starfort.
all across our realm, you see these Starforts, star-shaped cities. And we're told that their only purpose and design was just as a defense mechanism against enemies. It's almost as if these Starforts found all across our realm belonged to a single
I mean,
empire.
it makes sense.
Maybe one that existed long ago and the current nations living there took over, rewrote history, and said, we built these. This is a Starfort in Maryland, apparently built in 1798, and it's most
If I buy a large enough parcel of land, should I build a Starfort? Probably.
well known for the...
Why does he call it a realm? Well, he calls it a realm because he's most likely a flat earther. It's an unfortunate fact, but flat earthers don't like to refer to Earth as a planet. They like to refer to it as a realm because that gets rid of the association with it being a sphere. So he's probably a flat earther, especially considering how much Ewaranon content he's putting down. Because again, I'm having flashbacks to the 5-hour flat Earth history stream because these were mentioned in there, and I saw one of his video thumbnails, and his video was like ancient free energy, and he's talking about how churches used to be generators.
Inspiration for the national anthem. So who built these beautiful, intricate, advanced-looking structures in the 1800s and before? Well, let's take a look who they're telling us built these. This is Goryokaku, Japan. Starforts were not limited to the Western world. This example in Japan was built in 1855.
Do you think people 150 years ago were stupid and couldn't do geometry?
The aerial view one more time. And these are the type of people that lived during this time. And according to the narrative, they built it. Same goes for the Starfort in Maryland. This is the Starfort, and these are apparently the type of people that built that Starfort.
Do you think that just because they lived in the 1800s that they're stupid? They are smarter than you.
Horse and buggy people. So I wonder, what was the true purpose of these star cities, these Starforts? Here's
Wow,
that really
I love that.
well-preserved Starfort in the Netherlands. And these are the types of people that lived during that time. Even architects say that to build that kind of stuff, you need CAD technology, which is apparently something the old world didn't have. Like if we wanted to build Starforts today,
Nobody gives
we would
older
need
gens
CAD
credit.
technology. So how did these horse and buggy people do it? Or did these people just inherit this world, rewrote the history, rewrote who built some of these buildings, and just took over? I don't know. There's a lot of strange, mysterious stuff happening during the 1800s and before.
I don't know, man. If they built big stuff, why are they dead?
But yeah, guys, let me know what.
If they built big things, why are they dead?
Greek fire, a legendary ancient weapon of mass destruction. Let's talk about it. A real-life weapon of legend, Greek fire. Greek fire was a real weapon which has achieved near-legendary status, an incendiary device deployed against advanced Arabs by the defenders of Constantinople. It became famous for its devastating impact. The method used to make the weapon was lost, and later imitations seldom replicated its power. What was Greek fire, and how did it fit into the history of war? Alright, what was Greek fire? Greek fire was a flaming liquid when launched against an enemy's ships.
Yeah,
It set them on fire with an intense flame that was extremely difficult to quench. It could devastate a fleet or a troop of soldiers. The most famous and strategically important use of Greek fire took place in 672 AD. Ships from Constantinople used it against an enormous Arab fleet which threatened to overwhelm the city. By defeating the Arabs, the Byzantines halted the westward advance of Islam and saved their city for another 7 centuries. We do not have a record of how the incendiary used that day was made. Centuries later, the chronicler Anna Kamena recorded that the fire was indeed used. She understood other incendiary weapons used by fellow Byzantines. One such example was a blowgun using combustible resin and sulfur, but she did not have the recipe for the fire used in 672 AD. The majority of modern scholars who have studied it believe the liquid was
that's one of the things that we just don't know how to make anymore. So, like, we lost the specific kind of cement that they used to use. We lost Greek fire, and we lost Damascus steel. Damascus steel in the modern day is not the same as Damascus steel back then. We can replicate the pattern, but we can't replicate the tensile strength of it. Actually, I was talking about that to Reborn Pyro the other day, and Reborn was telling me that the Library of Alexandria might have actually just been a huge fucking scam. And it might have all just been like transaction records of the various merchants. He went pretty in depth about how like there wouldn't have actually been any books in there, and it all would have just been like receipts and shit, and how it was like this big like mercantile scam. But yeah, I'll have to ask him about it again. Yeah, he went pretty into depth about it, and it made sense at the time. So I'm gonna have to ask him to re-explain it next time he's on stream.
A combination of quicklime, naphtha, or turpentine. Quicklime became incredibly hot in the contact with water. On contact with seawater, it created enough heat to
But the Greek fire and stuff would never have been written down, because that kind of shit was passed from apprentice to apprentice only. Like, that you would never really have more than like 6 or 7 people who knew how to make that stuff at a time, because that's like the key to your military might.
The inflammable naphtha,
you don't want your enemies
or
getting their
turpentine.
hands on it.
Lighter than water, this burning liquid would have stayed afloat and burning as the Arabs struggled to put it out. So basically, these ancient ships had these flamethrowers, or cannon-type flamethrowers. And the ingredients for the liquid that was used for the Greek fire, to this day we still don't know the exact recipe. But this fire was just absolutely incredibly powerful. When they would spray ships with this Greek fire, the ships would burst into flames and became very hard to quench, because just using water to put it out wasn't doing much, because that's how powerful the ingredients were in the Greek fire. So it would demolish ships pretty quickly. Here's a depiction of a man shooting a Greek fire cannon off a ship. Legendary and very powerful weapon. Little is known about the invention of Greek fire. One thing that seems clear is that it was not invented by the Greeks, but was imported from the Middle East.
Interesting.
This right here were clay grenades that they were using back in the ancient days. And they would fill these clay grenades with the Greek fire ingredients, and they would toss them during war onto ships, causing all kinds of chaos and mayhem. So yeah, this stuff was incredibly powerful, and would actually save Constantinople from invaders during that time, thanks to this legendary weapon. Like, imagine you're a soldier on a ship trying to take over Constantinople, then out of nowhere you're hit with this mega flamethrower, just coming right at you and absolutely devouring your ship as if it's a dragon or something. And then out of the flames, you see this.
What a good edit. What a good fucking edit. Alright.
Zula, Queen of the Fire Nation. Nah, I'm just kidding. But all jokes aside, this weapon was legendary.
That was pretty good.
Still, to this day, no idea how they made it. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and we're out.